Topeka, Kansas is a small Midwestern city, population roughly 127,000, of which about 14,000 attend the city's public schools. In size, it's similar to Manchester, New Hampshire and Medford, Oregon. Its history, however, sets it apart. In 1954, Topeka was at the center of the debate over school segregation during the landmark Supreme Court case Brown versus the Board of Education. The ruling overturned the doctrine of separate but equal, declaring unconstitutional any law allowing racial segregation in education. 60 years ago, the issue was integration. So what dominates the discussion today? I traveled to Highland Park High School in Topeka to moderate a conversation about equality in a place where they don't shy away from challenges.
Throughout my life, I've been homeless, me and my family. I came from a single mother household, single parent household. And, we never had really consistency or structure. We moved almost every year or half a year.
What made the biggest difference for you in your success?
I actually had, teachers and principals who took a step outside of just the workplace. And they said, DeAndre, what can we do for you? How can we help you? What's another way we can help you go to school? Or are you hungry today? Do you need any money?
The auditorium was filled with parents and teachers and community members, all there to screen a new series called Undercover High. It sent adults back to high school undercover to see what new challenges and struggles students face. In addition to equality, one of the biggest surprises, according to the adults, was the prolific use of social media at school and almost constant cyberbullying. Social media isn't just a problem for high school students. Facebook admitted this week that it can no longer guarantee that social media is good for democracy. It was just last year that CEO Mark Zuckerberg said it was crazy to suggest Facebook ads influenced the 2016 election. But ultimately, Facebook found that Russian agents created 80,000 posts that reached about 126 million people. Now, the largest social network is taking a hard look at the impact it has on the democratic process. Harvard professor Cass Sunstein is the author of #Republic, Divided Democracy in the Age of Social Media. Focuses on group polarization, something he says is replicated on social media every single day. Thank you for being with us, Professor.
Pleasure to be here.
Nice to have you. So let's begin with a little bit of what this polarization is. I mean, is it naturally people are divided, or is social media actually doing the dividing?
The idea is if you have a group of people who kind of agree with each other on climate change or gun control or the minimum wage or #MeToo, if they talk to each other, they'll end up thinking a more extreme version of what they thought before they started to talk. And so groups can go whoosh to the right and whoosh to the left because of the dynamics of social interaction. And it's pretty natural. If you're talking to people who agree with you, you hear lots of arguments supporting that view and not many the other way, and that'll push you to the left or the right. Now, what we've learned since the inception of social media is that that kind of old finding, and it is as old as human history in action, is being replicated on Facebook and on Twitter all the time.
But faster? Is
Really
that part
fast,
of the issue?
Really fast and more often, both speedier and more often. And the reason is on social media, it's, you can do it in an instant, talk and listen to people who are exactly like you. Whereas before social media or outside of social media, that might be a little more challenging because if you read the newspaper or turn on the television, you'll hear lots of different voices, if things are working well at least. And so the use of social media as kind of an engine for group polarization is disturbing, probably alarming from the democratic point of view.
You've spent a lot of time in Silicon Valley. Do you think that they're beginning to understand that there's a responsibility in this thing that they've created, that they have to kind of go back and tweak? And I'm not even sure who the they is, but the system?
I think Silicon Valley is a big place, and there are people who think, our job is to provide people what they want. It's like we're providing shoes or sneakers, and nothing's broken. But a lot of the people at Facebook in particular are aware that they can do better. And you can see from their changing the news feed and their kind of switch in their judgment about what the underlying values they're trying to promote are, you can see that they're very concerned both about people being deluged with fake news and also about people being in little echo chambers of their own design. I think they're aware of the problem.
So then what's the fix of that?
Well, here's a direction of a fix. It's very good to have, let's say, a newsfeed algorithm that doesn't just feed, so to speak, people louder and more numerous versions of what they already think, but gives them unplanned, serendipitous exposure to topics and ideas. So you might see something that's a little jarring on your newsfeed. That's okay. That's part of what it means to be a citizen rather than a consumer in, what is, at good moments, the greatest democracy in the history of the world.
Professor Cass Sunstein, nice to have you. Thanks so much.
Great to be here. Thank you.
You bet.